According to Fragrantica, over 6,000 new fragrances were introduced in 2024 alone. And you know they didn't catch them all. No Pokemon. So we can easily round it up to 7,000, and honestly, it's probably more than that. Now, I'm gonna get the obvious out of the way. You see in the title, I'm gonna talk about the 30 best fragrances of these 7,000. Now,
did Justin try all 7,000 plus new fragrances in 2024?
I think we both know the answer to that, because the answer applies to you too. But what can I say? You and I have both made a hobby out of the absolute most saturated consumer market on the face of the earth. How could we keep up? I'm just going to share with you the ones that I've experienced, and I'm going to rank them from my least favorite to my most favorite, but I am going to split the list between mainstream / designer and niche. I know a lot of people don't care for that dichotomy, and honestly, I'm indifferent to it. I do see value in just seeing fragrance as fragrance. However, we do have to be real and not compare apples to oranges. A lot of fragrances cannot actually be compared based on what house they're coming from, which equates to how they're composed, which equates to what market they're catering to. So we're first going to go through the 15 designer fragrances and then the 15 niche fragrances. There's a lot of other 2024 releases that I acquired this year that are not in this list simply because they would rank lower than 15 on both lists. There's going to be links to everything down below. That's a lot of links. Let's dive right into it. At number 15 for the designer list, not a bad release, one I'm still getting to know, but definitely underwhelming for me, and honestly has me scratching my head a little bit at the House of Tom Ford. We'll see another fragrance from them on this list, but there's another new release this year in the signature line that I did not put here because it just doesn't move me, and that is Eau d'Ombre Leather. That one is just blah. But number 15 is probably their newest release as of the time I'm recording this. This is Bois Pacifique. This came out just at the tail end of the year. They sent me a bottle and I did a first impressions video. It is nice. I kind of see what they're going for. It's almost like an aquatic, but with this warmth to it. Something deep, rich, almost ambery, maybe incensey, but at the same time woody, oceanic in a way, maybe a touch salty, but not overtly aquatic, not necessarily a fresh aquatic. It is a different aquatic, but on the skin, it just kind of dries into this bland, like ambery, woody fragrance that is maybe a little powdery or dusty or just a touch smoky. Not something I would expect from Tom Ford. It just doesn't have a lot of character to it. So pleasant scent, easy to wear, but there's many other things that I think do this better. That's why it's here at number 15. And also because, again, it's new to me, so I'm still getting to know it. But that is Bois Pacifique. Let me know if you dig this one. At number 14, we have Acqua di Gio Profondo Parfum. It is tied to the Acqua di Gio DNA, and it's also tied to the Profondo DNA, but to me, it just doesn't really stand out from the line. It's nice, it's aquatic, kind of green, very fresh, clean, but doesn't move me. At number 13, from Valentino, this fragrance did grow on me little by little throughout the year, even though at the end of the day, it is still pretty basic to me. Uomo Born in Roma Green Stravaganza, definitely not the only flanker that they put out, but this is the only one that I tried, and it's nice. It's like coffee, it's sweet, it's warm, sexy in an almost boyish way, but there is something about it that feels like a slightly more mature guy could pull this off. It's a fun wear, but it is a little basic. At number 12, from Bvlgari, Man in Black Parfum. I actually do really like the scent of this. It is warm, spicy, slightly sweet. It's a little smoky and woody. It's a really nice fragrance, and it kind of transcends the mainstream realm, honestly, but in my wearing experience, it's just a little bit too quiet. I can't really detect it on me all that much while I'm wearing it. For the first hour or two, it's really enjoyable. After that, I just can't smell it. I know it's still there, but it just kind of evades me. So not the most enjoyable wearing experience, but objectively a fantastic release from Bvlgari. From YSL, another fragrance that really grew on me. I expected this fragrance to rank a lot lower than this when I conceived of a list like this. This is YSL MYSLF Le Parfum. The more I wore this, the more charming I found it. I loved it in the air. I loved the dry down of it. My wife could not stop giving me compliments on it. On the surface, not very special. It is that fresh orange blossom, warm, sweet, borderline generic scent, but I don't know what it is. There's something about it in the air that's a little bit magical. At least for me, I like it. Here at the 10th spot in mainstream releases from Guerlain, we have Habit Rouge Parfum. I do like this one a lot. It's a very intriguing scent. It's beautifully crafted, and it is tied to the original, which is a timeless classic. But for my taste, it's not something I would see myself reaching for a lot. I want to reach for it more because I do really like it, but I have to kind of be in the mood mood for it. Some days I will pick it up and sniff it and be like, man, that's really good. I can't pull this off today. But I look forward to more times this year where I do feel like I can pull this off. Maybe a couple sprays. It's very sophisticated. Sweet, warm, rich, a little bit boozy, almost floral in a way, kind of creamy, and has a touch of this old-fashioned vintage flair. At number 9, from Hermes, this is from their H24 line, Vives. I honestly don't like this as much as I hoped I would, but I do like it quite a bit. It's halfway through the list here, and I do like it because I like H24. I like the overall DNA, this metallic green, fresh, earthy green scent, but in this case, they've added a pear accord, like this juicy, fruity, frosted pear. It's really, really different. I like it, but for me, it just didn't capture my attention quite as much as the previous ones in this collection. But I do see myself liking this more and more as I wear it. I'm gonna definitely revisit it this coming spring and summer. At number 8, gonna give this a spray in the air. Another one that grew on me, and definitely my favorite in this collection so far. This is from Prada, Rossa Ocean Le Parfum. Has nothing to do with the ocean, but I've put that to bed. I've made peace with that. It is kind of fresh, but it's also spicy. Lots of saffron in here, maybe a little bit of citrus. There's this warm, not so natural, ambery muskiness. I think they call it like amber extreme, some kind of aroma chemical, but it is sweet and warm and very pleasant. I love the way it hangs in the air. The saffron being forward makes it more interesting. You don't always see saffron as a forward ingredient in designer fragrances. So a great release from Prada. I like the wearing experience. Another release from Tom Ford that I do like, but there's another Tom Ford that I already had that I prefer to this. This is Black Lacquer, and this does remind me a little bit of Ebin Fumé, which I prefer to this, but Ebin Fumé came out earlier than 2024, and I do like Black Lacquer. This is a little odd. It has this kind of smoky vinyl feel that's a little bit sweet, very dark. I think the name is apt. Doesn't change a whole lot on the skin, not the most interesting wearing experience from top to bottom, but the overall personality of it is definitely Tom Ford. This still feels like Tom Ford to me, so at least with some of the private blend releases, they are sticking true to their roots, so I respect it. I got some good wear out of this one on days when I just didn't know what to wear, maybe going to the gym, maybe just need something fresh for a few hours. From Narciso Rodriguez, this is For Him Vetiver Musc. Definitely not the most standout fragrance this year, but in my functional wearing, I really enjoyed wearing it and got more wear out of it than many other fragrances in the list, and that's why it ranks a little bit higher. This is a fresh musky, as per the name and as per this whole brand. They love their musk, and it's a clean, dry, woody vetiver, but it's shrouded by this musk. So you do have to like musk. It is warming, but at the same time, it's still pretty fresh. It's a simple scent profile, doesn't have a whole lot of elements going on, but it still doesn't smell exactly like anything else out there. Definitely smells like Narciso Rodriguez. So it's definitely a cohesive release from this brand. Another Guerlain that I liked a little bit more than the Hobby Rouge is Vetiver Parfum. I do plan to wear this some more this year. I wore it a little bit last year, but man, this is a green smoky vetiver. If you know Nichane, Sultan Vetiver, kind of that type of vetiver presence, but in this case, maybe toned down a bit and nowhere near as harsh as that one. Very woody, dry, again, smoky, and a touch of sweetness in the background from some tonka bean. I think I even get a little bit of this mentholic licorice, very, very subtle. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I get a vibe out of that somewhere in the heart. Really pleasant stuff, very elegant. I think it's a solid follow-up to the original vetiver. We are well within the top 5 here at number 4, a fragrance release that surprised me. I did not expect to like this as much as I do, and I did not expect it from Hugo Boss. Granted, I've been out of the loop on whatever they've been doing lately. I haven't been paying attention to them, but they got some interesting stuff. This is Boss Bottled Triumph Elixir. It's simple, but it's based around some ingredients that you don't see at the forefront of a lot of designer fragrances, like patchouli. There is this damp, earthy patchouli that is nowhere near as harsh and edgy as patchouli can be, so it is still a designer patchouli fragrance, but man, a scent profile like this in a designer fragrance bottle on the mainstream market, you don't see this very often. I respect it, and I really enjoy the wearing experience. Still getting to know it, but it shot way up pretty quickly as soon as I got my nose on it. Let me know if you enjoyed this one. Definitely one of the most controversial releases of 2024, if not the most, and it happens to be one of my favorites. Here at number 3, we have Sauvage Eau Forte. The reviews on this one, on Fragrantica especially, are kind of laughable. It's amazing how emotional people are about how much they don't like this fragrance, and it's okay to not like it. But if you have yet to smell this and you go read those reviews, please know that I think I can objectively say this fragrance is not as bad as any review you will see that paints it as such. It is different. Get Sauvage out of your head, remove that preconceived notion. I know that's weird because it's in a Sauvage bottle. It's part of that collection. It's a little bit in there. There's a little bit of that DNA, the fresh, spicy, shower gel, modern fougere feel here, but Francis Kurkdjian did something quite different with it. It is very green, sharp, and woody, a little bit lactonic almost, and it's overall an easy wear if you like it. It's very different. Nothing else smells like this. In the next few years, I think people will be raving about it. I think it might be discontinued or getting discontinued, and if that's the case, then yeah, you're gonna see people saying,
does anybody have a bottle of 04?
Too late. At number 2, a surprise release. I didn't know this was even out until like the very end of the year, and I think it came out somewhere near the end of December. From Cartier, this is Declaration Eau de Parfum. Went way under the radar, didn't see any reviews on it. I did a first impression video on it recently. Man, if you like that original Declaration DNA, and maybe you're not a fan of the cumin, fear not, cumin is gone, replaced by cinnamon, but lots of cinnamon. That cardamom is still here, adding a freshness, but cinnamon, man, it is a cinnamon bomb. It is very spicy, it is very warm, it's a little sweet, but there's a lot of tea in here. The tea is pushed forward, adding this calming freshness to it that kind of adds balance, a nice woody base. It does pay homage to the original Declaration, but definitely modern. Highly recommend checking it out if you've been trying to decide if you want to get into this DNA, or if you weren't crazy about the EDT or the Parfum. And my top designer fragrance for 2024, not what I expected. When I first sprayed this and smelled it, I thought this is kind of basic, but man, it only took a few minutes for it to start to develop on my skin. I can't explain it, but the wearing experience of this is so enjoyable and just barely edges out the Cartier for me. Very surprising here. From Givenchy, this is Gentleman's Society Extreme. It's my scent of the day. Again, first spray, it's like, this is kind of basic, bro, just a little bit in terms of like this typical sweet, fresh fragrance, but that doesn't take long for it to reveal itself. It's a little powdery, so it has this softness to it, but it also has this dry, woody vetiver heart. Lots of vetiver going on here, which grounds the scent, makes it feel very masculine. I think there's a touch of coffee in here. It's warming. It goes from being kind of hype boy, sexy night out to being kind of gentlemanly, cool, calm, and collected, elegant wear very quickly. And man, I enjoyed the wearing experience, and my wife does too. She could not stop complimenting this fragrance. So yeah, my number 1 wearing experience from the designer world is Givenchy Gentleman's Society Extreme. All right, let's get into the niche. At number 15, very new to my collection, is Purpose 50 from Amouage. I like it. It's just a little bit too much for me. In general, these exceptional extracts are very, very nice, but they're just a little bit much for my taste. The presence of them is so thick that it's almost overwhelming, and frankly, I just like the original Purpose a little bit more. I just don't have it. It wouldn't qualify for this video anyway, and this is still pretty new to me. That's why it is pretty low, but it's still among one of my favorites because there's other niche fragrances that did not make it here. So that's Purpose 50. More to come as I get to know it better, but let me know what you think. At number 14, a fragrance that blew my mind. I love this scent profile, but the reason why it's so low is because functionally, it is a hard fragrance to wear. It's a little bit odd. My wife doesn't really like it. It's different. From Thameen Chords. What a special scent profile. Very interesting. It is like this typical cologne style fragrance, but reimagined. There's lots of citrus and neroli. There's a clean citrusy freshness to the top, but it is engulfed by this slightly animalic, rich, sweet honey and woods, and also lots of leather. Very, very dense. Unbelievable. Smells like nothing else out there. I just don't get a lot of wear out of it because it's so different, but it's very beautiful. Highly recommend checking it out. Not too far removed from Purpose 50 is Guidance 46. I do like the scent personality of Guidance 46 more than Purpose 50. However, this is another fragrance that is way too powerful for me. It is so dense, even one spray is a little bit much, especially if I'm inside. So if I'm gonna wear this, gotta be outside. Even with one spray, I'm smelling it all day long. And I like the scent personality. It is this rosy, fruity, very musky, woody fragrance that's very odd and unique and special, but it's just a little much. I do like this fragrance. I did a vlog style video on it where I wore it out for the day and kind of gave you my updates, but it's just not special enough for me. I was expecting something a little bit more definitive. From Kilian, we have Old Fashioned. I like it. First spray does smell a little bit reminiscent to an Old Fashioned, boozy, woody, sweet, and warm, but it does remind me a little bit too much of one of their previous releases, Apple Brandy on the Rocks. I might be crazy about that, but that's just the vibe I get. And I wore this blindly around my wife a couple times, and both times she asked me, oh, is that Apple Brandy on the Rocks? Because she knows that one well. And I'm like, no, it's Old Fashioned. So a little bit redundant for me, but really good. A flanker from the house of Xerjoff. This is Tony Iommi Deified, and it's beautiful. This is a rich, dark leather, fruity apple. It's sweet, warm, spicy. It is pretty edgy, and it's a great scent for a night out, or a great scent when you want to stand out even more formally. It's good stuff. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. I just like the other stuff more and wore it a little bit more. From Amouage, I like this one more than the exceptional extracts that I was able to experience this year. This is Lustre. The other fragrances from this collection I still haven't experienced. I have samples, I just haven't tried them yet, but this one is beautiful. It is calming. There's a fresh spicy cardamom. It's kind of like tonic, creamy, I think maybe some iris. It's such a beautifully concocted fragrance that is easy to wear for day or night use when it's not too warm. Maybe not the most standout, but for what it is, really well done. Unfortunately, you can't really buy this fragrance anymore as far as I know, because I think it is discontinued. It was a limited release and I think it's sold out. I don't know if there's plans to bring it back. We'll see. From Zaharoff, this is Precious Treasure. What a stunning scent from inside to out in terms of the story, the whole presentation. I did a whole first impressions video, which I highly recommend checking out. This is a scent profile that I find so beautiful. It's very subtle to me. It is this very fleeting, ambery, woody, musky, slightly sweet fragrance with touches of other things going on, maybe some cardamom when you first spray it on, but it's very fleeting. It kind of dances in and out. It's not my most definitive wearing experience. I don't always smell it, but it's become more and more charming the more I've worn it over the past couple months. So very, very special. At number 8, a highly anticipated flanker from the house of MYSLF to one of their most popular and probably well-performing fragrances, Desir Toxic, which I happen to love. One of my favorites from the house and one of my favorites in my collection. They did a L'Intense flanker, and this is one of those obligatory flankers where, yeah, they had to cash in on what was doing well, and the result is something very good, but honestly not different enough from the original. It's really nice. It does make it a little fresher. There's this mint that leads from the front when you first spray it on. It still has this sweet, juicy black currant feel with this herbal dark woodiness behind it, some spices, maybe cardamom. It is still sexy, but if I have to choose between this and the original, I choose the original. It did it just fine first. Because I like the original, I like this, but not super special. Argos gave us a number of fragrances this year, and I think this is still my favorite one. They call it Sacred Flame. Man, this stuff really swept me away when I first tried it. Beautiful, juicy citrus, but with this warm, creamy, ambery vanilla, lots of cinnamon in there, so it's quite spicy. It definitely paints the picture that it's going for, but not what you think. It doesn't smell like fire. It's not really smoky. It's more embering. There's something warming and embering about it, but also kind of sexy. I love wearing this for a night out. They had some special ones, but this one took the cake for me. This fragrance I didn't even know came out until the very end of 2024 when I got this bottle from the house of Acqua di Parma. This stuff is going to be a stunner for the spring and summer.
Yeah, it rhymed, whatever.
They call it Mandarino di Sicilia. Juicy mandarin, mouth watering. When you first spray it on, it smells authentically like mandarin. So yes, sweet, fruity, but tart. You get a little bit of the rind in there as well, but it's made even more fresh with lots of mint. This green cooling mint, maybe some wood behind it. It does not last on the skin all that long. This is more for the heat. It's more for a casual wearing experience during the daytime, especially when it's hot. And if you like a fragrance like Tom Ford Mandarino di Amalfi and also the Acqua version of that, this kind of fills that gap. They do smell a little bit similar as they dry on the skin. So if you didn't get a chance to try that one, this one might do it for you. A great functional piece that I can't wait to wear more as it gets hotter. Into the top 5, I had to include this here. This fragrance really surprised me. I love the way that this developed on my skin. This is from fellow reviewer Peter, aka Fragrance View, and this is from his brand that he calls Centauri, and he calls this Santalamore. I've never smelled a sandalwood fragrance quite like this. Smooth, dry sandalwood. There's this white floral feel that's very posh and dense, but there's this also very pervasive green quality, and blending with this slightly sweet floral and smooth sandalwood, the way it all wraps up together, the way it dries on the skin, it just makes me feel very pleasing. It makes me feel delightful, like I'm a delight to the people around me. It's pretty strong, as with most of the fragrances from this house, lingers in the air very effortlessly, leaves a trail. You don't need many sprays of this one because it will be noticed, and it smells almost like nothing else I've really tried. Really appreciate this one, and again, it surprised me. From one of my absolute favorite niche houses, Ormond Jane, they released Kashmir. This fragrance is beautiful. I love this wearing experience. Sometimes it's a little much because it's stronger than you would think it would be, at least for me. So I wouldn't do more than 2 or 3 sprays with this. I once did 4 or 5 and I was like, yeah, too much. Spicy, warm, cozy, cashmerean, woody, floral fragrance, a little sweet, just a little bit sweet. Maybe a touch of tart citrus when you first spray it on. It is fresh, but there's something about it that would make it more suited for a slightly more upscale occasion. Not the most casual fragrance. Even though it is an easy wear, the way it hangs in the air, the attention that it gets, it just feels a little bit more refined. So I would wear it as such. I really, really enjoy this stuff. This fragrance surprised me and captivated me at first spray. If you like iris, like real rooty, earthy iris, man, you got to check out Dusita Pelagos. This stuff is a beautiful green, earthy, heady floral iris fragrance, but the headiness is like humid, almost like being in a greenhouse filled with white florals, but there's still this freshness that flows through it. Smells like no other iris fragrance I've tried. It's definitely more on the orris side, definitely more rooty, earthy, starchy, not super powdery or waxy or anything like that. Really beautiful, worth checking out for iris lovers. Number 2, from the house of Zaharoff. Man, this is a fragrance that I think could easily go under the radar from their several releases this year. This is Signature Bloom. I think this is one of the most beautiful white floral fragrances I've ever tried, and it's a masculine white floral. It is unisex, but guys, don't be fooled. This is lots of jasmine and maybe other white florals too, but there's a beautiful incense in here. The smoky incense balances out the powderiness of jasmine as it can be, and it brings this musky, woody, smoky, but smooth, dense, and kind of fresh masculine profile as it dries on the skin. I find this stuff to be so pleasant from top to bottom, but especially the dry down. It is absolutely lovely. There's going to be a discount code in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. And my favorite niche release of 2024 also goes to the house of Ormond Jane. They call this Tangier. I got some good wear out of this one. This one was an easy one to put at the top spot because of, again, my functional wearing. I wore this quite a bit throughout the year. It wasn't my most worn by any means, but I definitely thought of it a lot of the time when I would think about a fragrance to wear that was a little bit more fresh and citrusy, and I did end up wearing it more than a few times throughout the year. But this is this ambery citrus. It is this ambery, warm, vanilla, kind of creamy, smooth citrus headed by this bright, juicy orange that is mouth-watering, that is a little bit fresh. And all of that actually is not overwhelming. It's not too dense. It does have a transparency to it. It sits on the skin beautifully. It may not be super noticeable after the first 4 or 5 hours, but for me, it's still there. I love the vibe I'm getting. It is kind of easygoing, but there's something alluring about it. And it's perfectly unisex, maybe leaning masculine, which is not what I expected when I saw the notes to this. I thought it'd be more of a feminine release, but perfectly masculine. That's Tangier from Ormond Jane, my top from 2024. All right, that was quite a marathon. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, links to everything down below. We have thousands and thousands more fragrances that we will be experiencing this year if this train continues as it has. So strap yourselves in, guys, but just watch your wallets. Don't overspend. It's just perfume. It's good stuff, but there's always going to be new stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.